we had a woman who would come and register every year. And I think she was actually at the first, I think she did every triathlon we did. She did the first one all the way up until we stopped doing. She was in her 80s at the time, and she would always do the longer distance, the Olympic distance, not the sprint distance triathlon. So she'd do the Olympic distance, and she would go to the starting line. Everybody, would be in their wetsuits, swim caps and everything, and she'd be in just a regular bathing suit. Didn't wear a wetsuit. Just went into that cold water, no hesitation at all. And in her 80s, she was beating people that were in their 20s.
Wow.
It was inspiring, to say the least.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Energy Podcast. My name is Fahad, and I am the host of this show. Guys and gals, it is extremely cold over here in Napa, California. I swear we have some sort of a wind chill going on, and we are freezing. It's not exactly freezing like some of you people in Midwest, but it is certainly cold for us here in California. Now, to set the stage for this show, let me lead with the fact that we make two products primarily at this point, which is one of the products is Energy Pods, which is a 2-ounce meal replacement product made with almonds. They're sugar-free, protein-enriched, and CocoZen is basically a spread version of the same product. So these products are great for athletes, especially runners, and can be a great pre-race snack or a post-race sort of indulgence as well, or something that you can consume late at night, late in the evening, or just create your own dessert. In other words, we call it the lifter's chocolate. We call it the runner's fuel. So there's a few nicknames we've got for the Energy Pods. This is where our guest comes into the equation. When we do these kind of events, whether we're sponsoring or we're vendoring, we come across all these different kinds of amazing organizers and people that have this interesting story, and we like to engage with the local community over there, especially the runners, and sometimes it's like a family-style event where the families show up for watching their family member do a run, or friends just do these kind of runs together. So it's a really interesting and crazy time where you can see the community come in together. And so Justin is one of the people who hosts the yearly Mare Island Marathon. So Mare Island is adjacent to a small city called Vallejo, and this is a small island that has a very interesting history, especially pertaining to shipbuilding, World War II, and so forth. And in this episode, we're not only going to talk about the history of the island, the race itself, the challenges that people have to face when they're creating these kind of big races where hundreds or thousands of people show up. And the most important takeaways that I've found over here is how these kind of events can turn into a movement. Like in a city like Vallejo, where there's a strong camaraderie and family-style culture as well, we see that the community comes together when we're doing events like the Mare Island Marathon. So Justin was really kind enough to dedicate some of his time and sit down with me today to explain how these events, these running events are set up. Most of the time we get to see all the upfront, front-end stuff. We see how events are in front of us, but we never peel the curtain and see what's going on behind the scenes, the challenges, the story, the narratives. Those are the unique things that only an organizer sees, and you're going to come across some tidbits and golden gems that I found very interesting when talking to Justin. So without further ado, let's bring our guest, Justin, onto the show. But before I bring Justin on, please, if you support our podcast, go buy our Energy Pods and CocoZen on our website, which is www.kgfoodco.com. And please do leave us a subscribe, rating, review, comments on this episode as well. Any sort of engagement really helps. You guys know how all of this works. So let's go back to our show and let me bring to you guys my interview with Justin. All right, we're live and ready to go on the podcast here with Justin. And Justin, welcome aboard. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. We met first at the Mare Island Marathon, and you were literally one of the coolest people that I came across during the entire event. You were just charging away and helping making the world a better place with your voice, with your enthusiasm. So thanks for being on the show. And so let's get the ball going rolling. First of all, let's start off with a little bit of your backstory. Like how was your journey? Like how did you get started with the Mare Island Marathon? What's your personal journey over here and how you became such a huge influence in the lives of so many different people that showed up to the event?
Yeah, so I guess as far as the background goes, Andrew and I, he's the race director, we're the co-founders of iRecreate, and we used to work together as lifeguards. And we did that probably for at least 10, 12 years. And we always did great things for the city of Vallejo. And I would say in regards to like special events, we would do a really cool event called it was a wakeboarding event, right? It was called Spanky Beaver's Wakeboarding Jib Jam. And we would have high speed winches with wakeboarders from around the world that would come out and they would set up these rails and jumps in Cunningham Pool. And we would showcase that, talent and to bring people out. And then we would do an event called Belly Flops with the Cops, which was like another community event to try to bridge the public and the police department as one, like, common goal of just having a good time at a pool and public safety's image, to boost that as well. And then we would always put on a float in the Vallejo 4th of July parade, which was really just a chance for us to build some really wild pirate ship and throw water balloons at the crowd as we went down the parade route in Vallejo. But all of those things were just, designed to have fun with the community. And so at one point, we got a call at the pool from somebody looking for some lifeguards to help out with a triathlon that was going on at Lake Berryessa. And so I found a few lifeguards that were willing to go up there and lifeguard it. And when they came back, they told me, oh man, it was huge. There's a couple thousand people and all these racers and everything was great, energy, good vibe. And they had a great time. And so I was talking to Andrew about, I was like, we could do that here. We've got water. We've got the Mare Island Straight. We've got bike paths. We've got running paths. We've got a course. And so we started mapping it out. And Andrew's a genius when it comes to like strategizing stuff. So he's on the map looking at routes and distances and everything and figuring out how we can do it and what roads we got to close and all that stuff. And we were like, yeah, we should do it. We should definitely do it. And I think we got a little intimidated by it at first because of the scope and the cost, of course, because you got to pay to close roads and different things. And so we decided we were going to do something smaller, and we didn't end up pulling it off, but we tried to do something that we called the running of the trolls. And it was going to be a race through one of the parks in Vallejo that has a forest and a bunch of areas that people could. It was kind of going off of the zombie theme at the time. There's a lot of zombie runs going on. So we were going to have trolls chasing people, throwing like troll slime at them. And that was going to be that like the draw of the event. But we really had no idea what we were doing. And so we didn't end up pulling the trigger and actually having that event. But the next year we had our first triathlon and we hosted that down at the Vallejo Marina. They swam out in the channel, through the Mare Island Strait across to the yacht club. Then the cyclists got on their bike and went across the Carquinez Bridge. And then the runners came back and they ran across the Mare Island Bridge, the little blue bridge, and did a little loop around Mare Island. And the first event, we cracked 100 people. And that was our goal, right? When you think about 100 people, that's, most people's weddings are bigger than that nowadays. And so we were just happy that we got 100 and we built on that till we ended up getting the course too packed, and we realized that we couldn't expand it anymore because the course would only safely allow for so many people, especially on the bike portions of the bridge. It was just a little bit too tight. So we ended up deciding that I think the next move, Andrew and I were talking, I was like, I think the next move is running. We should just move to a half marathon and just do a 5K, 10K and a half. And we were able to do that a couple different ways. We used to do 2 per year, one during Waterfront Weekend and one during Memorial Day weekend. And the one during Waterfront Weekend, we would start it on the Vallejo side and run across to Mare Island and come back. And that worked pretty good until the bridge started going up and down for boats and the runners had to wait for the bridge to come back down. That was a bit of an issue, but then it just evolved to just a Mare Island only event because the bridge, we couldn't stop the bridge from moving. As much influence as we thought we could have, that wasn't one of them. But Mare Island is a great place for it. And now you've been able to see what it's evolved into over the years, where we have almost 1,000 runners and a bunch of great vendors that come out and people from all over the state, really, plus other states that are in town that we have attend the current half marathons. So It's grown quite a bit from our humble lifeguarding beginnings.
That's awesome. What does it take to do one of these events? Now, on the outside, you would be like, hey, I could just, talk to the city and be like, hey, I'm just going to put up a run. But I'm pretty sure it's a way more complicated than that. So lead me through this entire process of setting up an event like this in a city like in Mare Island.
Yeah, I'd say Vallejo's not the hardest of places to put something on, but it does have its fair amount of red tape and permits and regulations that you got to jump through all those hoops to make sure that it's a safe event. Obviously, we coming from a lifeguarding background, everything is based on safety. That's always kind of our premise for each component of the race. But working with the city has gotten easier over the years, and working with the folks at Mare Island has gotten easier over the years because they see the value of the event. And once you've kind of built that reputation of a quality event that brings people to the town and brings out that good community vibe, they're a little bit more willing to work with us, which has been really good. Now, being born and raised in Vallejo, I think probably helps a little bit too. But, I had some people say, I still got to pay $5 for a cup of coffee. So we're not getting free permits. We're not getting free anything. It's just nice to have some people in town that know that we're doing a good thing, for Vallejo.
So how do you guys start the whole planning process? Like, do you go do this 6 months in advance, 7 months in advance? Do you guys start thinking about it a year in advance? And then how do you procedurally, step by step, go through this entire process? Like, I'm trying to parse it down so that I can understand what's going into the event. And when do you guys start marketing, for example? So how does this whole thing even open up? Now, I've done quite a bit of events like this throughout the Bay Area. So I have no idea what it takes to put these events out there.
Yeah, it's a lot more than I thought it would be. I guess is a good way to put it because, we were naive in the beginning and didn't really know what it would take. But we usually are planning the next year's event before the current year happens, right? So we're a year plus out as far as at least the planning process goes. And some of that probably comes from the fact that we used to do 2 per year. And so we always had to be a little bit ahead. Like we always had to be ahead of the next event. But now we've both had our families double since that time. Andrew didn't have any kids at the time that we started, and I think I only had 2 kids at the time that we started. So yeah, my family's doubled, and his has gone from no kids to 3 kids. So it gives us a little bit more time now to plan for just one event, and that year out is really a lot of the planning process in terms of course changes. As every year we refine it a little bit because we want the course to be the best possible experience for our runners. And so we try to take any little hiccups that we see or any refinements that we can make or any enhancements, really, if we find a cool little, hey, it'd be better if we took them by this particular historical thing on Mare Island because there's so many out there, then, the course kind of comes first. We have to make sure the course is dialed in. The permits and, that sort of stuff usually is kind of on the later side of it. I think those usually aren't able to be done until about 9 to 6 months out, but we always are marketing it, as soon as we get registration online. Like right now, we've got the 2026 race already available online to go and view and get the information for. And then we'll hit the register button here probably within the next month because usually we like to get people set up right after Thanksgiving. They can make those commitments for 2026. And then, of course, right after the new year, we get all the resolution registrations. So those are always great. But the planning part is honestly, it's one of the funnest parts because Andrew and I get to get on the phone and start strategizing and working out things, on our laptop and looking at updates to the course because that's what we always look forward to is making the next event better than the previous year.
And how do you guys bring the runners in? Do you guys reach out to the local newspaper? Do you guys do guerrilla marketing? I'd imagine a lot of it is already word of mouth because of you guys being an established brand at this point.
Yeah, I would say at first, a lot of the advertising we did was just through social media. We did a lot through Facebook. And then as Instagram came along, we started using Instagram too. In the newspaper, we have done articles like at the event, and that's kind of helped perpetuate it year to year. So the Vallejo Times Herald's done a great job of covering the event. They did a really cool article on Andrew and I last year as like the founders and, just that component to the race. Yeah, marketing is in the racing world, a lot of it's based on reputation, right? I mean, everybody knows about the Boston Marathon. You don't need to see an ad for it, right? Its name holds its own weight. And we're starting to get to the point where the local community all knows who we are, which is cool. And we just like to keep growing it, from that word of mouth quality event that people just enjoy the vibe, and that's what we've heard from a lot of people. They come out and they say, man, we just had such a fun time. It's just a cool event. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're not making this, a Boston qualifier event or any of those, kind of strict guidelines that you would typically see at some other races out there. We just want a really cool vibe, to showcase just how cool Vallejo is and how cool the people are and the community coming together for events like this is.
Absolutely. That's one of the salient features that I noticed when I was doing your guys' event through our business was that
Mm-hmm.
there's a huge community involvement. There were people who were showing up with their entire families supporting
Mm-hmm.
each other. That is something that I don't think I've even seen in other running events to this level, which is awesome. Next question would be, what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys face when it comes to this event, and how do you guys overcome those challenges?
I would say we haven't really had a lot of major challenges. I think that one of the things that we've always been aware of was that Mare Island is always a changing location because it's in a transition phase from a naval base to a civilian business and residential hub. And so the Mare Island company is constantly doing things to make improvements and, update roads. And so every now and then there's just a road closure because they're repaving it. And so we have to go around that particular part of the course and make a U-turn somewhere or something like that. And it works. It's just something that we constantly have to be aware of. And so in the challenges department, we've been really blessed to not have a ton in that regard. I think that having great partners in the race, as far as like the location goes, that's been one of the huge benefits of being on Mare Island is using the coal sheds there and the Mare Island Brew Co. Having Kent Fortner, one of the owners there, be super supportive of the race being starting and finishing right in front of his brewing company has been huge. That venue's, one of the gems of Vallejo right now. And I think having such a great starting and finish line helps us overcome a lot of potential obstacles that we've had in other locations where you have to bring in everything to just an empty patch of grass because there's nothing there, no infrastructure at all. But since there's already, the building, the bathrooms, the food, the electricity, just everything there, it makes it a perfect location. So that helps us overcome a lot of the challenges we had when we had our starting and finishing line at the park near the marina, right? For example, because it's just a patch of grass and no infrastructure.
And Mare Island is very unique for the historical component of the island itself. So, what can people expect from this race when it comes to witnessing the grandiose nature of the city itself? And what will they notice when they participate in this race?
Yeah, you're right. It's really one of the coolest courses I think on the planet. It's unique in the sense that it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest naval base on the West Coast. I know that the golf course that we kind of skirt the top of on the half marathon, when you get up to the top of the hill, you end up kind of doing a loop right around the edge of the old golf course there. It's no longer a golf course. Unfortunately, it's just kind of an abandoned golf course. But it was the oldest golf course west of the Mississippi up until it closed. I think it opened in 1898. So as far as golf courses goes, it's ancient. You go past a military cemetery on that portion of the course as well, which has some very historic headstones there. One of Sir Francis Scott Key's daughter, I believe, is there, and dozens of others. And there's even some prisoners of war that are buried there. So it's not just U.S. burials there. There's all kinds of amazing buildings that you go by. The cranes and everything, that the dry docks are still there in Mare Island. There's, everywhere where they launched one of the submarines or battleships, that's part of the very beginning of all three courses, 5K, 10K, and half. You go down I think they're called gantries, where the ship kind of goes between those two big long steel frameworks, and then it would launch into the Mare Island Strait. You run right underneath all of that as you go winding through that historic core of Mare Island. Another key component on the course is the St. Peter's Chapel, which has one of the largest collections of Tiffany stained glass in the world. It's just littered with all kinds of cool stuff like that. And it's unfortunate that the runners are running past it so fast that they don't really get a chance to enjoy it all. It'd almost be a better walking course, right? So you could like walk along and listen on your phone to the historical things that you're seeing along the way, and you could stop and take a picture. But maybe another time. I think the Mare Island Historic Foundation actually has an app that they have developed with the Mare Island Company to tell that history. But for a race like this, we're going for PRs, not for not for history. But it's definitely worth coming back for that because it has so much history. I mean, both of my grandparents worked out there, and one of them worked in the paint lab, the other one worked in one of the machine shops, and those buildings are still there. It's kind of cool to see all that history that's still on Mare Island.
Absolutely. And remind the listeners about the influence and the history of Mare Island itself. I believe a lot of it has to do with World War II, correct? Or is that like what's like a brief history of this entire place and the legacy that it left? Could you touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a complete expert on it, but I know from just the readings that I've done, I know that it peaked during its World War II era, right? It was producing, at a record-breaking pace. I don't remember the pace, but I think they built the fastest ever battleship, and they really were a critical component of the success of the Navy during World War II. I think it started to slowly ramp down after the 50s. Probably once the war ended, they saw a reason to start reducing it. But I mean, the radio signal that Pearl Harbor was bombed was first received by the radio tower on Mare Island. I mean, it's just very, very deep in history. There's a lot of stuff. I believe that the Mare Island Foundation website has a whole history of all the cool stuff that Mare Island was known for around, the whole military.
This is really cool. Like the way I'm talking to you and kind of understanding a little bit on the history, this is going down, running through the history lane and a very important part of United States itself. That's huge. Like you're doing a brilliant, brilliant thing over here. And so, yeah, so what can people expect when they go into the race? Like let's say I don't even have any experience running at all and I'm just like or maybe I just do a little treadmill here and there at the gym. So and I want to do something a little bit cool. I want to join your guys' cool club and do some running. So can I do that or do I need some do I need to really wrap myself, train myself really well or can I just jump in and just enjoy the experience?
Yeah, this is one of the main reasons we actually switched from triathlons to 5K, 10K, and half marathons because we knew that not everybody could swim. We knew that not everybody had a bike, but we knew that everybody could at least walk. And so if somebody wanted to come out and walk a 5K, that's awesome. That's a great start. You're going to come out and get some good exercise. You'll be able to enjoy a lot of the history of Mare Island a little bit better if you're walking it. And we end up having a lot of people who come and walk the 5K or walk even the 10K. I've seen a group of people that do that. And that's awesome. That's a great first start. Or if maybe you've got some injuries and you're just rehabbing your knee or your hip or something that happened, then that's perfect too. If you wanted to get more competitive and really get into running and, try to get a PR for something that, from some other race that you did, you want to improve for this one. There's a lot of great run clubs out there. I'll give a shout out to the Vallejo Run Club. They've developed in the last probably only about 5 years now. I could be wrong, but it's grown really quick. A guy named Marcellus, he's been the whole energy behind that, and he's put together a great group of runners that'll go and do races all over the Bay Area. Actually, they're getting ready to go out to Hawaii next month to go run in the race in Honolulu, and they have such the best energy, and they're so willing to bring anybody out. Doesn't matter your skill level. They have a great kids group that comes out and runs with them once a week, or maybe it's twice during the summers, but it's awesome. And they have really developed the community of beginning runners being able to get into running and not just, the people who are already Boston qualified. These are just average people who want to get in better shape and feel better about themselves and find a community of people who want to do the same. And Marcellus has done a good job of that. I know that Benicia has a great run club, American Canyon, the group in Vacaville, the Fleet Feet guys, they have a run club up there, but there's a bunch. And anywhere, it doesn't matter where you're at, you'll be able to find a good run club that'll plug you into whatever races or training plan that you need to get that going.
Absolutely. Shout out to the Vine Runners here in Napa as well. Those
Yeah,
guys,
there you
like
go. There's another
I
one. Yeah, I forgot about the Vine Runners. They always come out and
yeah.
bring a good group to our
Yeah, I
race.
noticed. I noticed. I saw some familiar. I do see a couple of familiar faces that go to your guys' run as well down over there. So that's kind of really, really cool. So every time I go to Mare Island, I feel like they keep upgrading and adding monuments to the track. There's like something that keeps getting added to it. So
You mean obstacles, right? They're more like obstacles. Yeah, I know what you mean.
what's going on over there at the city or island? Like, what's the city planning for that kind of place?
I think most of that's done by the Mare Island Company, and they've got a really good flow of art installations that get put in along the promenade there, right? And it's always interesting because we have no control over any of that, and it's just an art thing. And so when we show up, we're always like, okay, what monument do we have to run around, or what? Like there was a giant metal rhinoceros there last time, right? And so each particular item is always really cool, but when we're looking at like the course and how you have to run on the right hand side of most of those monuments on the way out, and then on the right side on the way coming back in, so the left hand side as you're looking down, it gets a little bit, we're looking at it from a safety perspective. We're always like, all right, so we don't want people colliding, but how are we going to go around this giant rhino or whatever it is? So I never know, honestly. We always go down there about 2 months before the race, and we're like, okay, well, we'll go this way around this one and this way around this one. But they're always cool and they're very picturesque. I mean, people love taking photos with all of those art installations that go on down there on the promenade. So I mean, I hope they keep doing them. I think that they're great. And right now they actually have 3 ships from, maybe it's 4, 1, 2, 3 or 4 ships from the National Park Service. They have those huge, they almost look like pirate ships. They're these massive, like, sailing ships. 2 of them are sailing ships, and one of them I think is like a steamboat or something. But they're awesome. They're these great picturesque things, so you can go down there and check them out. So right now we're trying to work out something with the National Park Service so we can somehow incorporate those ships into the 2026 race. I don't know. Maybe we'll announce the awards from up there or something. I don't know. We'll see.
That would be really, really cool. Are those ships just parked over there, or do they move?
No, those are parked there while they're working on the piers in San Francisco. So they're fixing the pier in San Francisco. So they're probably going to be at Mare Island for a number of years because, it takes a while to do all the pier construction.
Absolutely. And every year just feels very different. There's always new monuments. There's always like new things here and there, which I really appreciate. Sometimes there's like maybe even new businesses involved as well. And I noticed a nice little cubby that you guys have over there where there's like the Mare Island Brewing Company as well. So like there's a lot of fun stuff involved after the event, and then of course all the vendors and stuff. So how has the community and the people around in Vallejo taken up to this event? Do you think it has had some positive influences on it, or has it started making some solid impact?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it has. And I think that you probably noticed it in the little vendor village of people that we have there. One of the groups that we've had come is the More Than a Cut Foundation, which is one of the benefactors that we've donated to for the last 2 or 3 races now. And it's a foundation that a friend of mine named Donald Long started. He's a barber in town, owns a barber shop at the same place where I go. There's another barber there that I go to get my haircut from named Junior. And they're both runners. Junior was original on the Vallejo Run Club, and he's been running these races for a while. And then Donald just recently ran his first 5K and then his first 10K last year. He is the founder of the More Than a Cut Foundation, which gives scholarships for kids to go to barber college, and then they can decide if they're going to start a career as a barber or whatever. But it's a scholarship that we like to donate to, and we know Donald does great things in the community, and so it's great to be able to partner with somebody like him. He actually is one of the people that we collaborated with the Vallejo Run Club. So between the 3 of us, we made a race hat that we were selling at last year's race. And the year before that, we had a prototype of one. I think we didn't have it ready yet, but we used it kind of as a promoter of the event. But Donald produces these great hats through a company called Black Lemons. And so he's been making all these cool Vallejo hats, and he'll make any kind of inspired design that he has, whether it's the Giants or the A's or something, for 49ers or whatever. But he's a really creative guy, very community oriented, and his heart for Vallejo is like mine, man. We just want to see it succeed. And so anything we can do to partner together on, we do. And so having him there and having his Black Lemons tent there selling his other Vallejo hats, having you guys there, having Izzy's CMOS out there, he's another local guy. It's really a cool vibe to just have everybody that is willing to contribute to the community and be part of that. there at the finish line, because we know that they're also going to give off the same vibe, that same spirit, so that anybody who's just walking around can feel that heartbeat of Vallejo right there at the finish line party.
Absolutely. Normally, actually, let's swing back to the event itself. How many years have you guys been doing this?
So the first triathlon was in 2014, I believe.
Wow.
2024 was our 10-year anniversary of races. Yeah. So 2014 to 20, and then we just had 2025 was our 11th year.
So during this entire period that you've done these races, is there a standout story, something that really sort of hit with you and has just stuck with you? It doesn't even have to be a story. It could be anything really that you can think on the top of your head that, just was like, wow, that was kind of interesting or crazy.
Well, when we used to do triathlons, we had a woman who would come and register every year. And I think she was actually at the first, I think she did every triathlon we did. She did the first one all the way up until we stopped doing them. And I'm blanking on her name right now, but she was in her 80s at the time, and she would always do the longer distance, the Olympic distance, not the sprint distance triathlon. So she'd do the Olympic distance, and she would go to the starting line. Everybody, would be in their wetsuits, swim caps and everything. And she'd be in just a regular bathing suit, didn't wear a wetsuit, just went into that cold water, no hesitation at all. And in her 80s, she was beating people that were in their 20s.
Wow.
It
Holy.
was inspiring, to say the least. We would watch her on the course, and we're like, I'm not worried about her at all. Usually you'd think somebody in that age category you'd have to keep an eye on. No, you have to keep an eye on some of the 30-year-old weekend warriors that were pushing themselves too hard. But she was extremely well disciplined and in shape, and probably one of the top percentiles for her age group. It was just impressive.
Is awesome. So swinging back to the topic of participating in the race, can you do that race with your friends as well? Can you do like as in a group setting, or like or you have to do it solo, or like how does that work?
Yeah, we've tinkered with the idea of doing it as a group. We don't really have a registration method for that right now, so we haven't done it that way. Although we've had some really cool costumed groups join up, like Fleet Feet Vacaville, the Vacaville Run Club up there. Those guys always come in a great costume and run as a group. Sometimes they'll be, five people deep, sometimes they're 12 people deep, but it's always like some big themed costume, which is really cool. I know that the Suisun City Run Club did that one year too. And we typically try to, give out some sort of goofy prize for the best costume, but that's kind of the only group thing that we do. We don't really have a group registration component, but if you want to come out and just dress up together or some sort of themed, whatever, we love that. Absolutely love it, because it just brings out that whole community vibe of everybody just having a good time.
Is awesome. Yeah, I think last time we had some costumes drop by to our booth as well, and we took some pictures. So it was hilarious and awesome at the same time. So what is your calling, man? Like why do you do this? Why the drive? I need to know, because this is 10, 11 years we're talking about of a lot of stuff going on. Like this is not something that anybody on just dreams about, or can, or do they dream about? But what's your drive here?
Well, I think a lot of it stems from working in recreation for so long. I worked for the Vallejo Recreation District for 25 years, 11 years part-time, 14 years full-time. And everything that I did in that period of my life was geared towards bettering the community. And I saw the benefit of putting on events, having programs for the youth in Vallejo, and just the smile it put on people's faces, and even within my staff. I had like 80 of the best possible worker lifeguards you'd ever could put together. And when we orchestrated something, when the 80 of us came together and put something together, it just felt like magic. And we knew that whatever we did was going to benefit the community, and the kids were going to love it, and they were going to, tell their parents about it, and their parents were going to love it. And it was just going to be a cycle of improving Vallejo. And I think that things like this race fit into that same spirit. of keeping Vallejo a place that people can look to as like, oh man, they're doing good things there, despite its challenges, despite, some of the reputation that Vallejo has. There are some good people there doing great things for the city to help improve the reputation and to keep people coming to Vallejo for a positive reason to keep that reputation improving in some degree. And so I feel like I'm just doing my part because there's a lot of other people that do great things for Vallejo too. I think that I just got to do my part since I was born and raised here and had all those opportunities as a kid growing up in that same structure. GVRD was one of the places where that's the Vallejo Recreation District. That's where I was able to learn to swim and learn to play tennis. And Vallejo Little League is where I had tons of great coaches that all volunteered their time to make a good experience for me to learn how to play baseball, and Vallejo Babe Ruth baseball. And, everything that I did growing up was because somebody was spending their nights and weekends to help out and volunteer. And I'm just trying to get back to that same cycle so that my kids and future generations can have that same thing.
Commendable passing the torch forward and making the community and the lives of other human beings better.
Yeah.
That's the core philosophy, as cliche as it sounds, that I try to embody myself as well. So I had a question and I totally forgot about that one. Anyway,
Well, I was going to
what's
mention
the
it did remind me about something about the
yeah.
kids component. Last year we actually started a kids run during the event. So we didn't have any kids races during any of our other races until last year, or I should say this year, 2025, right? We had a 0.5K, so a half K for the kids to run. And it was honestly the most fun I had the whole day. And part of it was because I started the race. I'm usually the guy who starts the race because Andrew doesn't like to do that stuff. Andrew's more the behind the scenes brainiac of all the stuff. And so Andrew was like, no, you're starting that one. And partially to give him some credit, all three of his kids were running in the race. So he wanted to watch them and, videotape them. So, all right, fine. So I got on my electric skateboard, which, as you know, that's how I start all the races. I follow the runners on my electric skateboard with the camera so I can get some moving footage. And it was absolutely amazing to run with them the whole time. And I just see them coming down the finish line, running, just the looks on their faces. And then to look at their parents as their parents saw their kids running, crossing the finish line. And it was priceless. It was absolutely priceless to watch that. And so we're doing the kids run again this next year because it was kind of a test. Well, let's see how it goes. And man, I would just do those all day if I could. That was the best part. It was amazing.
How many kids do actually show up to that run, roughly?
Gosh, I think we had close to 100. I'm not sure,
Whoa,
but
that's
I think
pretty good.
it was somewhere. I think it was like 75 pre-registrations, and then we had some day ofs. So we probably got pretty close to 100. We might have to change the course a little bit as it grows because, as you know, there's parameters. But as I always tell Andrew, so I always say, kids love Bernie, right? And Bernie's our mascot. That's this guy right here, the burning
Yeah.
couch. And so, and when I created this mascot, Andrew just rolled his eyes at me and he was like, all right, whatever, let's go. Let's go with it. Because originally this was our logo, right? This burning couch, which is great. I love it. But it's not a kid's logo, right? This is great for like a website or an app or something. But the burning couch, I mean, how could a kid not love that right there? Like, look at that tongue. He's sweating. He's running his hardest. And so when we gave the kids their shirts, they all had Bernie on the shirt, and we gave them their Bernie sticker, and their medal had Bernie on it. And so it all came full circle right there for me because I was always the guy who was coming up with these crazy designs and like the phrase "burn your couch," all these phrases. Kind of Andrew just wasn't really into him. That's all. He was more the numbers, the strategist, he knew how to get things done kind of guy. And I'm over here drawing pictures of burning couches, so.
All right, I gotta ask this now. What's the story behind "burn your couch," the catchphrase?
Yeah, so I guess I should have included this in some of the beginning origin story, but it's kind of two parts. So one of it is, just the concept of you burn your couch, you can't sit on it and veg out and watch TV anymore, right? You burned your couch. And so in that mindset, it works for like a runner. It's like people say, you cut the cord on your cable or something, right? No, you burned your couch. You're not sitting on it being lazy anymore. And that was part of the phraseology, but it really stems from when I went to school at UC Santa Barbara, and I lived in Isla Vista, which is the 1 square mile of it's housing, it's student housing, but it's mostly students. And that 1 square mile of Isla Vista would always have random couch burnings because couches got ruined in these college apartments and houses and stuff. And so people would bring them into the middle of the street and literally just light them on fire. And people would dance around them like it was some sort of like tribal effigy out in the middle of Isla Vista. And I never burned a couch myself. I'm not incriminating myself, but I've seen a couple couches get burned. But one morning on my way to school, I remember I was on my bike, I was kind of running late, and there was just the smoldering remains of a couch in the middle of the street. Just the metal, just like a skeleton of a couch, basically. And it was just the fire was just, or not the fire, but the smoke was just barely billowing up in the morning dew of Isla Vista. And it was one of those times where I should have gone back to my room to get my camera, but we didn't have, this was before camera phones, right? So I should have gone back to get a camera because it would have been the photo, like the absolute photo of photos that epitomized Isla Vista. But I didn't. I was on time to class that day, so I have no record of the photo. I made it to class. But that's part of where it come from, because in my mind, I think of these burning couches in Isla Vista, and then the idea of just burning your couch and exercising instead.
That is hilarious. Thank you for explaining it, because that was something I was very curious about, because I saw it everywhere around in your marketing material. So is burn your couch, is it a slogan, or is it what is it actually, or is it like a sub business, or
It's really just a slogan. I think that our company's called iRecreate, and that's not really as fun as burn your couch. And so if you can remember the event from burn your couch, then that's way better. And so a lot of people that have come up to me, they're like, "Oh, I love the burning couch event," or "I love the burn your couch event," or that sort of thing. And I'm like, we should just roll with it. If people like that, then it's catchier, and it really epitomizes what we're saying. I was always an adamant in opposition of having cable when I was in college. And and it's partially because I saw what it would do to people who just sat around and watched TV. And so I told my roommates every year that I had a group of roommates, I said, "I'm not paying for cable. You guys can get it, but I'm not going to watch it either. So don't worry. You're not going to get any money from me, but I'm not going to sit and watch it. I'm not going to sit around. I'm going to be, at the beach. I'm going to be riding my bike. I'm going to be playing racquetball. I'm going to be doing something. I'm going to be hiking, but I'm not going to be sitting on the couch watching TV." And sure enough, I didn't. And I still don't have cable to this day. So I haven't burned my couch. I still use it every now and then to watch movies on. But, I try to live by that mantra as well. And I'll teach it to my kids too. It's just healthier, long term.
absolutely. And sometimes when I sit down and start watching something, I spend more time looking stuff up, what I'm going to watch, than actually watching that stuff. So no, 100% respect on that. So like, what kind of activities do you do? I know you got your family now, but do you still partake in certain activities these days, or just a lot of work mostly?
I still keep one toe in the pool, if you will. I still maintain all of my lifeguarding and lifeguard instructor certifications. So I go and teach lifeguarding classes and recertification classes every year. And that's been fun, staying involved in that community, because once you're a lifeguard, you're always a lifeguard. So I like being part of developing that next generation. I got to certify both of my older two boys once they turned 16 and were able to get certified. So that was pretty cool. I still coach baseball. My younger son loves playing baseball, and so I coach him doing that. I play racquetball with my second oldest son. Keeps me in shape still, going back to my early days at UC Santa Barbara playing racquetball. And so now my 17-year-old son is starting to get to the point where he can make me really have to work for every point that I get against him. He's not quite to the point yet where he's whooping me yet, but I can see it's coming. And then my daughter loves riding horses. And so we go to her different horse riding events, and she shows animals at 4-H events. And so we go out to the 4-H events to watch her with animals. She's kind of like the Snow White of our family. Like, all the animals just are attracted to her. And so she takes care of them and nurtures them and does everything she can with animals, which is really cool. And then, I go backpacking with my kids every year. We do a backpacking trip up to Desolation Wilderness. And I just love getting out into nature like that. Keeps me grounded, away from all the devices that we have distract us nowadays, and give the kids an appreciation of nature and an appreciation of their beds and running water, because we get them out there away and off the grid. So, I just love doing that. Love traveling. As a family, we go to Yosemite almost every year, and try to go camping at least once a year and go see somewhere new, some national park or something like that, just to get out and explore.
That's awesome. I got into the age of camping last year, but that's a story for another day. I think we're starting to yeah, we're
Well,
starting
we'll
to
have to
finally.
talk about that another time for sure. Yeah, camping's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good. Like this is one of the reasons why I love podcasting is because it becomes an open chalkboard for opening up conversation. Like next time I'll see you, I can ask you, "Hey, how was your camping or backpacking trip? Like was there something fun you did?" So it's a great medium to connect with people as well. So one question I do have to ask you, since we do have a food business and we have to sort of explain the products. So what do you think about our stuff? Like, I think you've had our spread, I believe. So, what was your experience like with our stuff?
Oh, it's great. And I usually don't get much of it because my kids eat it all before I do. It's, I can tell you it's kid approved in our household, um, especially the one that has the coffee in it. It's the chocolate coffee or the coffee one. For some reason, my 17-year-old just like inhales that one. But it's good. Yeah, I usually like to um, dip pretzels in it. I'll get those Trader Joe pretzels and I'll dip the pretzel in there and just pretty much eat it that way. But yeah, I mean, my wife and I we became vegan um, pretty much the year we got married. We were vegan from like 2004 until 2024, where we just stopped being vegan in 2024 and started just eating, still healthy, organic, everything we could of the other varieties of food. But we were always very conscious of what we ate in that regard, and it was more about just the awareness of what it was and the health impact it had on us and how it made us feel, and that sort of thing. And so it was obvious that you guys took the time to look into the ingredients and the components of your product. And I always appreciate that because, I've been doing that since I was a kid, really. My mom was a big reader of labels in the grocery store. And so I've by default become one of those as well.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, so the products that we make, just for the audience over here, is that CocoZen is our spread, or 12-ounce spread, and then the energy pods is the one you're talking about, which is the coffee and the chocolate one. So how can people get more? First of all, actually, how do people get involved with the race? If I want to start running, what do I do?
Easiest way, I mean, you can just register for the race and figure it out from there, right? I always say just make the commitment and then do the back training on the back end. So people can register for our race at iRecreate.org, or they can go and find it through our Instagram, Burn Your Couch on Instagram or Facebook, either way. And then there's a link to all of the registration stuff. But if people wanted to start running, I would suggest finding the local run club in your area. If you're in the Vallejo area, come to the Vallejo Run Club. They've got an Instagram page with all the information on when they're racing. Pretty much a run club in every town, but that would be the homework of registering for the race. So you register, then you're locked in, you're committed, you got it on your calendar, nothing gets in the way, and then just backfill with the work that it takes to get your body to the point where you're feeling confident that you're not going to hurt yourself, for one, and that you're going to feel like you accomplished something, for two, because you've been training and you kind of know what range of a time you can get, and you can work on having a PR for the race.
And do you have any final plugs besides the website that you mentioned that people can use to reach out to you, to contact you, or to learn more?
I don't know about final plugs. We've been really lucky to have such supportive wives over the years of running this race. I will say that as maybe a final plug for the support that my wife and Andrew's wife have had for us in this venture. My wife does all the photography for the event, and she's taught my daughter to help out with that too. And so the two of them have done a ton of race photography over the years. And there was a period of time where my wife was running the registration table and writing the numbers on the triathletes' arms, for the swim and everything. And Andrew's wife does an amazing job with all the design work. She's a graphic artist. And so she's been developing all of our shirts and medals. And she actually makes the medals at their house. And she's made them out of, like, the last couple of years, we've made these really cool stone coasters. Some of our runners have called them rock dallions. And then in previous years, she's made them out of wood with a laser engraver and painting them and all the handwork that goes into that. Those were the wood dallions, as one of the other runners called them. But she does all the design work and everything for it. And so we've been very fortunate that our wives have been supportive of our little boondoggle, if you will, into community ventures. And they've just been supportive of us in that. And so it's kind of cool that we've made it a bit of a family business, a family venture, if you will, between the Bozaniches and the Saroyans over the years. And that's kind of how it's been with all the little components of the race, every little piece of it, from Kent being the host of the location at the Mare Island Brew Co. there, and Donald being, one of the people who's helped out as with the, marketing and stuff through the More Than a Cut Foundation. And in the past, we used to have a great group that we donated to called the Mare Island Shoreline Preservation, I think is what it was called. But it was organized by Myrna Hayes, and Myrna was a champion of all of the natural areas on Mare Island. So she was the first person that we talked to be able to get access to the preserve, which is the top of the hill. And it's little connections like that where we've been able to have all these, little community partners that have made the whole event possible.
Gotcha. That is awesome. And so to find you guys, the people can go to the website to register for the race. You guys also have an Instagram, I believe, which is at, what was the Instagram again?
Burn Your Couch.
Gotcha. Awesome. And then you guys also have a Facebook, right?
Yeah,
Or
you can find it
Meta.
on there on iRecreate, and then just the word recreate. Or if you look up Burn Your Couch, you'll probably find it under that too. But definitely on Instagram, we're usually more active there.
Sounds like a plan. All right, Justin, thank you so much for being on the show. And it was a wonderful conversation. And until next time.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to seeing you at the next race.